All right, how's it going, everybody? This is Ryder here. I'm just going to give you a quick run through of my website here on Russia's economic status. As we all know, Russia is the largest country in the world, but it's a little bit interesting to take a little bit of a closer look at their economy in 2023, also given all the political background going on there. On our front page here, we've got a little bit of our intro to our land, labor, capital, our resources. You can learn more through these. We have a little drop down talking about the economic goals of Russia, and also a little hyperlink here to my little piece on how the war in Ukraine is affecting the Russian economy, given the unique economic stressors. So first, we'll just glance through the resources here. As for the land of Russia, like I just said, it's the biggest country in the world, covers a ton of space, and only 20% of it is suitable for agricultural purposes. That being said, that's still a big deal in the global market. Some of the tough parts about having those resources spread across such a wide area is having the technology to farm it. So in terms of land, they're very wealthy, but it's tough to pull those resources. In terms of labor, especially right now with the war going on, Russia has really, really low unemployment, under 5%. As On top of that, they also have a crash in population kind of happening or on the brink of happening, and you're going to see that stress the labor market of Russia a little bit more, as you can see here through this graphic. Moving on towards their capital, like I said, most of the wealth in Russia's economy comes from their natural resources, but they've also taken a leading role in the production of nuclear energy, which is showing itself to be a key thing in the global market. Nuclear energy can play a pivotal role in supporting industrial development and the expansion of a modern transportation network, also good for helping pull those natural resources. In terms of their entrepreneurial ability, I found this really, really interesting. Russia ranks as the 125th most economically free country globally, which is not good. It illustrates that while Russia is considered an economic superpower, its political ideology tends to discourage innovation among its citizens. As you can see here, it shows their economic freedom score. Pretty interesting that most things are controlled through the state, and that can cause some issues. So now we're going to talk about some of their economic goals. Here are the three basic criteria for economic growth that we learned: stable prices, low unemployment, and high and sustained growth. You can analyze this by looking at a couple skewed statistics. This was interesting to me. In 2020, inflation rate was 3.38%. But it has been climbing since then. Again, they're in a inflationary cycle because of the war. A lot of government spending, that's causing high inflation. Like I said, pretty low unemployment. They're losing out on their population, and with the amount of production that they're trying to get pumped out for this conflict they have on, the labor force is spread really thin. The real GDP reached just over $4 trillion, making it the sixth largest economy in the world. Obviously, this is very, very high, but it is a little bit different in GDP per capita. In terms of economic growth, we'll look at GDP per capita around 26 grand, which is okay. It's also increasing. But when you compare it to some other countries, it's pretty standard growth from 2020 to 2021. In my opinion, the greatest area of concern for Russia coming up here is rising inflation, especially as we look at the stressors on the labor market that are coming its way. This higher level of inflation due to the government spending and the cycle that they're in can result in a couple of different things: purchasing power erosion, investor uncertainty, monetary policy, which we'll get into in a little bit on our next slide. Income inequality, that's always been an issue in Russia. There's a big oligarchy, which is something else that you can go into, and fiscal strain, a couple other things. Feel free to go take a look at that if you'd like. Now we're going to move into the policies that Russia has kind of taken on to deal with some of these issues and to achieve some of their economic goals. Like it says here, Russia is still actively in war, and that means they have to deal with stressors that aren't common to other economies that are just trying to be mutual with other countries. There's a lot of unexpected stressors that have led them to take a different switch on their economic policies. Here we've got the definition of the two policies, monetary and fiscal policy. We have an example of one of each for Russia here. In terms of Russian fiscal policy, according to the International Monetary Fund, Russia is spending 1/3 of its budget on national defense and special military operations. Obviously, like we know, military spending is government spending. It is an inflationary thing. It's a stimulus to the economy. It helps the economy kick into gear. That's why you see here, this is what we can expect due to this fiscal policy. With government spending going up in the military, you'll see an increase in aggregate demand, which will increase the price level and the real GDP. Now, interesting enough, to counteract this, their monetary policy actually has kind of something that's trying to shrink the economy a little bit and fight that inflation. In 2023, Russia's central bank raised its key interest rate by 2 percentage points to 15% to bring down stubbornly high inflation. And as you can see here, that will be fighting in the opposite direction of their military spending, trying to make sure that it doesn't turn into a runaway on the economy here and just make sure that they're going to be in a good spot when the war concludes. So as we can see, that'll help to fight the price levels, and it will also in turn shrink the real GDP. Now we're going to go to international trade, which obviously, again, this all is super interesting because of the context of Russia being in a war, because this all changes on these certain political agendas. Russia is one of the greatest has one of the greatest concentrations of national resources. Obviously, trade partners from all around the world. Here we have a couple drop downs that show Russia's top trade partners: China, Germany, Belarus. This makes sense. Regional and geographical factors play a role, but China has also been a very close ally of Germany for a long time. In terms of trade agreements, we got two here: the Eurasian Economic Union, which is containing a bunch of Asian economies, goals to create a single economic market, and the Commonwealth of Independent States, which is actually a collection of former Soviet republics that coordinate economic and political cooperation. So what are the top imports and exports of Russia? We have a couple of them. Imports were importing machinery, vehicles, pharmaceuticals, electronics, plastic products. As you can all remember from our resources page, these are all really, really important in being able to pull the resources out of the ground. And so this makes sense in terms of their exports. Obviously, big into natural resources, oils, natural gas, refined gases, metals, chemical products, wood products. It's very, very interesting. And as mentioned, the political campaign has caused trade issues with notable international partners. The United States, other countries have put sanctions on their metal and other things. Now we have a little bit of an extra bonus here, a little bit about the war economy and how that's changed it. Like it says right here, Russia spent around 4% of its GDP on military spending in the last 5 years. And now, with the war in Ukraine, urgency for spending has heightened. The already low unemployment rate, like I had talked about, maybe a labor shortage incoming, and we can see this is what's going to happen to the possibilities curve if we're looking at kind of a Russia-specific product possibilities curve. We can see that if this is our kind of sample group of what their production would look like, if they start to see this labor shortage because of the war, you will see an overall contractionary result to their production possibilities. As we know, labor is one of those resources, and with lacking labor, you will also see a lack of production. So that's about it. There's lots of extra information in here and lots of extra little facts. If you guys want to go check it out, I hope I gave you guys a little bit of a run through there to give you a little bit of basics on kind of the background of Russia and what they've been up to in the last couple of years. Here's some sources. There's some really good articles in here. I encourage you to go check those out. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. I appreciate you taking the time to listen, and have a good day.